Why is African herbalism important? So to me, I liken it to a book. You wouldn't get a new book and start in the middle of it and then read to the end and think that you knew everything about the book. You knew all of the important instrumental factors that went into that process. You wouldn't think that you had the 100% full story. And so you can't simply, study herbalism and not know what the first people that experienced the plants thought about them and how they learned the information that they did to relay it to their ancestors as well. And so I think to have a total holistic approach to herbalism, you really have to look at all the different cultures and the things that they contributed to the science and study of herbalism. Another reason why herbalism is really important is because of, let's say, many of you who watch this are gardeners. You know that you may try to, there's people that have tried to, let's say, grow squash and they've just never been able to. The plants were not very strong. But then they may throw, and you shouldn't, but they may throw squash seeds or whatever out when they want to cook a butternut squash or a zucchini or whatever it is. And then next you know you have it growing in the compost and it is so strong that there's no pest on it or nothing. And it just wants to take over. And so things just kind of grow better in that natural environment. They're just stronger and, they don't have any help. They didn't have, they just had to survive. And so they have that survival instinct. And so many people do believe, and I believe that it's even more potent medicine. And so when you think about the climate of Africa, you have the intense radiation, there's all kinds of wildlife, all kinds of different predators that you may not find on other continents as well. And so you just really have to be biologically strong as a plant to be able to survive there. There's all kind of disease and fungi and all kinds of, wild things in the jungle and forest and the different terrains that Africa has. And so you have stronger plants, and there has been studies that show that they have more chemopreventative substances inside of them because they have to, they're so close to the equator that they have this intense radiation that they have to be able to adapt to. And so there are so many wonderful African herbs that are really powerful, that are not talked about, and that are even more specific to a large percentage of the people that are on the globe. And many of them don't know because they're not still in Africa as well. And so, how does African herbalism differ from African American herbalism? So, African American herbalism is just like a nice mosh of different cultures. So, you had these Africans that were pretty much had to migrate, and it wasn't their own choice, right? So, you know, what's the best way to phrase that? Okay, so you had them, and they would, braid the seeds into the hair so they can have their native plants. And so you had this mixture of the African cultures and the things that, they remembered and how they relate to the plants. But then they had other cultures around them. And those also influenced the that they also influence the way that they perceive the herbs. So when you're going back, and we're not just talking about the US, but we're talking about the Americas and some other places, when the slavery first happened, the Native Americans also were enslaved as well. And they actually started out by enslaving them first, but they found that they were trying to enslave people that were native and knew, all the hideouts, all the routes and everything. And they're trying to enslave you and you know more about the land. So it wasn't working in that aspect. And then later you found that when these two groups were enslaved together, the Africans were already maybe used to rice plantations and etc. And so the lifespan was shorter, but the Africans were averaging longer lifespans. And so they were just better suited for the labor, or they were just able to maintain longer. And so it just made more sense for those to be the people that they chose to enslave because they were in a totally different homeland and they knew and had knowledge about these certain plants and they were able to endure. So it made more sense, I guess, to them financially, not saying that it made sense to do or was the right thing to do. But looking at it, that's probably how they decided to just stick with, enslaving the Africans. And then that's where you have this whole civilization of the tribes and all of that. And so these two groups were together and they shared their knowledge as well. And then you also have the European influence as well, with them bringing different plants with them to the Americas and also that mixing there. So that's the difference between the African herbalism, African American herbalism. It has some elements of the African herbalism and also have the Native American and European sides to it. So let's talk about, some of the main components that really make African herbalism different. You have what's called the doctrine of signatures, and that's not the name that they coined, but it was the name that was going to kind of describe what it was. And so the theory behind it, or the thought behind it, is that first the plants grow where there's a need. And so where you find the cure for malaria is in an area where malaria exists. Why? Because the plants have to live there and they have to be adapted to all of the different things that can harm them, all the different bacteria and all that. They have to have some kind of resistance to it. And so we've found that has been true, where malaria drugs are ones that grow in the rainforest, where is malaria is more common because it's just the right environment for it. Another factor is looking at how the plant grows and what it looks like and colors. So you'll find that colors are significant in African herbalism and also in Chinese, and they have some that overlap. Most of them do overlap where they have the same colors for certain organs, which we'll get more into. But there are, when you put them together, you kind of get a more rounded knowledge. There are more colors in African herbalism than there is in Chinese herbal, the Chinese medicine. So in African herbalism, you have colors that are specific for certain organs that are beneficial, and then you have ones that stimulate. So like yellow in African herbalism, the yellow stimulates purification and digestion. So we can just go down the list of certain elements like this. And so we can say dandelion is a plant with the yellow, and we know that that is wonderful for detoxification. It's alterative, so it's blood cleansing, purifying. Okay. We also have lemons. Lemons can help stimulate the digestion as well. And, we put the lemon water because when we're trying to detox and cleanse the body. Um, calendula flower, even chamomile flowers, those are digestive. And so you can go on and on and on down the list of it's yellow. So what's behind that yellow? And I think that's kind of like more of the secret sauce. So they're taking you from the memorization part to understanding what's really going on. So the yellow, when you have that yellow pigment in the plants, that lets us know that it has that carotenoids in it. So that's where, when you're trying to get vitamin A, you'll go for a lot of those yellow or orange fruits, vegetables, and those tends to have that high vitamin A. We know that what the vitamin A, the carotenoids can convert to vitamin A inside the body. We know, like, let's say carrots, we know that those, with vitamin A for vision and all those things. And so it just kind of explains what it does in the body. Another example will be like chlorophyll. That's the green color. So those dark leafy vegetables, why are a lot of those anti-inflammatory? Well, the chlorophyll does what? It is what to plants. Basically, it's kind of like plant blood, I like to describe it as. And so the chlorophyll is so important to even the life of the plant as well. So it's more than just, the pigment. And we find that, like I said, the plant blood. So it's oxygenating to the body even. And so that's why it has that anti-inflammatory and antioxidant property as well. So you can go down the colors and really kind of explain it like this to explain why it does those things. And it's not just colors, but this is what they did and what they passed down to be able to understand the plants and what they would do for the body. And then you also have some herbs that may have a signature of its use, and some that even shape like certain organs, like, the kidney being, associated with that part of the body. So there's all different types of factors. Then you have the aspect of really looking at the organs. And so when you're dealing with herbs, you really want to understand the organs. And what you'll find is that they have complementary organs. They have organs and systems, of course, the body as a whole. So all of the members work together. But you have certain organs and systems that just kind of really work together. So if you take an herb that's going to affect this organ, it'll affect the others. And so it has also tissues. And so you'll kind of understand things better when you look at this whole complementary organs. And then you have the organs relationships. And that's important because a problem might start here, and then you'll see problems branching out into these other complementary organs. And I'm trying to keep it minute just so that you can understand it at the surface level. So let's say we have the liver. So the liver, gallbladder, where's the gallbladder connect? Where is the gallbladder located in the body? They're like this. And so it makes sense those are complementary organs. The gallbladder houses the excess or the extra bile that the liver secretes. And so they have that relationship that way. And then the relationship of the even the closeness of them. And so if you had to have your gallbladder removed, then you're just going to have the bile that your liver can secrete. So that puts more stress on the liver. So they're complementary that way. But another complementary tissue is the eye. So one of the ways that that can make sense is jaundice. I had jaundice as a child. I was born at 30 weeks. I had tons of health problems. And so jaundice, what does that do? You'll notice that you'll have that yellow color. So that's important. So we have the yellow plants stimulate the liver. But we have the yellow color and it affects your eyes. And so if you have a problem with your eyes, something's probably going on with your liver. And so that's the way they put those together. And then also you have the spiritual aspect as well. And, not only do herbs have benefits inside, but it's that whole mind, body, and spirit thing. And the mind, body, and spirit, and you're putting all of those together to make a whole. So hopefully this lets you know why this is something that you should study and it's something that's not talked about. And so when you add in all these different elements and you can add it with different elements from here and there, and it just makes the whole picture make a whole lot more sense. So hopefully I did that for you and you see how I tied those in and see how all of this is really important to your study as you are growing as an herbalist.